Hello, it's day number 297 of 365 days of awesome. Celebrate success through service. My name is Tamara Hunter, and I today am going to be honoring and highlighting our service hero, a dear friend of mine, Ruth O'Neill. Let me brag about Ruth. I met Ruth in San Diego, and she is just who she is. She serves, she helps, she makes sure that things get done. And she was helping with an event that I had been asked to be on the panel. I was impressed by her abilities, her consciousness, and she kept things running. And so that evening when I had a chance to visit with her, I found out that, oh my goodness, there's so much going on with this woman. And the fact that she was there serving like she was, I knew at that very moment in time, she truly is a service hero. So, Ruth, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Tamara. It's so great to be here with you tonight.
Well, I'm really thrilled that we finally were able to get this scheduled because we've been wanting to for a while. Excuse me. We're going to be talking about what it is that we have in common and what it is that Ruth is doing to make a difference. First of all, you have had a change in your focus. And I want to go there, and then we're going to go into the backstory. So talk about what you are so excited about that you're doing.
Absolutely. So recently, as in the past 6 months, I changed my business from a branding and web design agency to podcasting because on a whim, I started a podcast because I wasn't getting the traction in my business that I had wanted. And so I thought, you know what? Let me just try this thing that people call podcasting and see if it works. And lo and behold, it did. And it blew up. And I had people reaching out to me asking if I would help them launch their own podcast. And the more that I did it, I just loved it. I just loved talking with people and getting their stories and then taking that to my audience. And so I decided that, Tamara, they always say, have a business that you would love to do, even if you never got paid. And that is podcasting for me. And that is coaching for me and helping other people to connect with their audience. So I closed down my branding agency and dove 1,000% into podcasting and helping other people to create and to create that connection with their audience and to make an impact. And that's what I'm doing. And I absolutely love every second of it.
That's a big change. I mean, to close down a full business and to take, I mean, turn on a dime. You talk about turning on a dime. That's turning on a dime. And what is it that gave you that assurity, besides, of course, loving it, but that gave you that business assurity that this was a good choice for you? Because quite honestly, here you are, you've got a family. You're a family person, right? And so it's not like you don't have some risks that you were taking. What is it that gave you that assurity that that was a good move?
Honestly, Tamara, I'm going to be completely transparent and honest with you because that's just how I roll. I wasn't sure of it. I didn't know if it was going to work, but I was so convinced that I shouldn't be doing something that I'm not passionate about. And every morning when I wake up, I kind of dread doing that, or some of the clients and things like that. Not that I had any bad clients, they were all amazing, but it was that kind of work, and I just didn't feel enthused by it. And I was convinced that I shouldn't continue this business if I'm not passionate about it, because I can't bring that passion into my clients and then to their design so that they can impact people. So it was all about me being confident in, I'm going to figure out a way to make this work. I have no idea how I'm going to make this work, but come hell or high water, I'm going to stick with this because this is truly something that I love doing. And I didn't want to be, I didn't want to not be true to myself any longer. And so I really wasn't sure about it, but I was sure in myself that we would somehow make it happen.
And I get that. I understand that. And the thing I want to then follow up with the question is that you had just made a big move too, right? you moved, didn't you move
Yeah.
your family? So, I mean, was that all at the same time? Was that for the same reason? I mean, there's a lot of change going on. You're, you know, you got little guys, and you're very, you know, you seem like you're very active in your family too. And so here you've got small guys,
Mhm.
and you're living in one area of the world or the United States, and then you move from like the Midwest, right, down
Yes.
to Florida.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. It all happened. We had been planning to move to Florida for several months. And so we knew that in the beginning of May, that's where we were going to move. But I didn't decide to switch my business over from branding to podcasting until I landed my biggest client and in the history of being an entrepreneur. And I thought to myself, this is a sign that this is what I'm supposed to do. So I made that decision that that's what I was going to be focusing on. I literally made that decision the weekend before we moved to Florida. So I committed to that, and I had been working with freelancers and different, different contractors to help me with some of the projects. And so I reached out to them and told them, we're finishing up on the projects, but that there wasn't going to be any more design work for the time being. And so all of that literally happened the second week in May. And so it's been a very new thing, but when you start getting those people reaching out to you, when you start having things fall into place and you start meeting the right kind of people, it's just it feels so right that even sometimes when it's like a struggle or it seems like, oh, on top of moving, let's try to do this, it feels so right. And I really didn't have a chance. I really didn't have a choice. It was either do something that I love or be untrue to myself. And so it was crazy, but I'm all for crazy.
Yeah, I get that about your personality. I want to say hello to Helene, one of our chemo buddies for life, and one of my buddies, and I'm so proud of her. She's doing amazing. So glad that you dropped by, Helene. Okay, so let's go back in time a bit. Mm-hmm. Let's bring people through your story. You decided to be an entrepreneur how long ago?
About 3 years ago.
And why was that?
It's actually super interesting. So I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. My son was about 8 months old. And I grew up in a very conservative family, and so did my husband. And so it was kind of how things were when you got married. The woman stayed home with the babies. That's just how it was. And before I had gotten married, I was a teacher, and I just loved the teaching and the coaching. I just loved that aspect. But I got married, had a baby, and was staying at home. He was 8 months. And my mom had asked if I would write a little paragraph in her yearly newsletter for Christmas. And I was like, well, sure. So I was writing about my husband and all the things he was doing. And I was writing about my son and, he's crawling and he's the most smart baby ever. And, all of those fun things, And it came to me and I started crying. And I started feeling very depressed because I was like, what am I doing to serve other people? Like, I'm doing laundry and I'm changing my baby and I'm making dinner. But like, I felt so empty. And I felt like I just wasn't doing what I was called to do. Like, I felt like, my husband and my son, like, they needed and appreciated me. But I felt like I was called to do more. And I was called to be more for other people and be a leader. I've always been a leader. And so I felt I literally was like bawling my eyes out. It happened to be our anniversary. My husband came home and he was like, okay, what's wrong? And
where'd my wife go?
I know. And I told him, and he's like, sweetheart, if you want to go back to college, if you want to, start a job, if you want to have a business, like whatever you want to do, let's do it. I'll support you in anything that you want to do. So he was so supportive. And I joined a couple MLMs. I had some bad experiences. I did some freelancing, and it was, I had done graphic design for like 13 years as a hobby. And so that's just kind of how that business started, was because I knew how to do it. Mm-hmm. But that's how my whole journey started, is because I had that realization of kind of like a wake up call of I'm not living up to my full potential, and I'm not leading people. I'm not inspiring and impacting people to the level that I want to and feel that I could. So that was really hard. And that anniversary was definitely not one of our best ones. So, it was just really sad, and I just felt really, I felt like I was supposed to do more, and I think that it was a God thing, because I thank my mom. I'm like, thanks for asking me to write that little paragraph, because I don't know when I would have gotten that nudge.
Well, and what I'm thinking here is that, excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, guys, so trying to ward off the, it's like, okay, no, we don't see the bump here. Okay.
No, you're good.
Thank you. But what I'm thinking actually is that what a wonderful anniversary, because you got to see how incredible, you both got to see how incredible your relationship is, that you can get through a situation like that, a crisis of faith, if you will, and where is my life going? What does it look like? How am I going to best serve my, those that are around me and feel fulfilled? And it happened on your anniversary, and here you have a guy. It's like, your husband is like, okay, what do we need to do? You need to do something. Let's do it. And that makes a lot of sense in the fact that, okay, and I'm sure there's going to be more to the story in the big move. So, okay, so let's take you back. So you're there then. Mm-hmm. Then you start having clients. You start feeling the success. You have, and I remember that about your story because of the laundry. I kept thinking, okay, I know there's a laundry story to this.
Yep.
And because I can relate. And I'm sure many of you right now are listening saying, yeah, I get that. Because I too am in a situation where, I'm folding the laundry, I'm doing this and doing that. I have Monday chores, Tuesday, and yet I know that I can do more. And the good news here is, with all the technology and all the tools and everything, there's ways of being able to be creative and find what it is that's going to be your niche, that's going to fill your soul and help you then to fill the rich life and help with that family and everything like that. And I think you're a really great example for that. And I wanted to highlight that. Okay, so now you're welcome. And so then you keep going and you're helping all these people. How did you end up at the summit in San Diego, where you truly were serving? You're helping to make it happen. You're counting people. You're, checking people in. You're doing this. I mean, you nearly took care of the kitchen sink. I mean, you were doing so much. How did that all happen?
So I had met the host of the event, Joe Ortega, several months beforehand, and I was actually out at a previous event of his several months before that as well. And he had asked me, he reached out to me a month or two before the event and asked if I would speak. And I was like, yes, I'd love to. And he's like, well, what do you want to speak about? And I was like, whatever you think would be valuable to the audience, I will talk about. And so that's where I did the motivation. But while I was there, I mean, kind of going back to that, I've always been a leader. I've always taken on the responsibility. And when I saw things that, there was so much to do, and he had so much on his plate, and I saw some things of, here's where I can help, or here's where this needs to go. I just have always been that person to step in and take charge. And sometimes people don't like it. And sometimes other people are like, thank you. And that's a godsend, So I tried not to step on toes, but I also realized that, first of all, when you're throwing an event, that's huge. And second of all, there was a lot of people. There was like at least 100 people there. So that's a lot of people to get checked in, to get registered, to let them know like where things are going and when lunch is happening and all of these different things. There's so much going on. And so I just wanted to help, because as a speaker at that event, it also kind of is on me, and it would reflect on how I handle different situations. And so for me, it was just trying to help out. It was just trying to, and he did a phenomenal job with the event. But it was just me trying to just help out and, be that person to kind of take weight off of the shoulders so that he can focus on his speech and serving and not feel like, when is lunch coming, or when's the AC turning on, and who's checking in, everything like that. So, it was just one of those, let me jump in, let me relieve some of the pressure.
And you did. And that was the thing that I noticed, because I was sitting up there and I was live streaming, and I'm like, I'm in the corner and I'm seeing you here and there and everywhere and taking care of things. And I was so impressed. And then when I spoke with you after and we were having dinner and visiting and then hearing your story, and I'm thinking, wow, here's an, if you will, a small town girl, and I'm just kind of generalizing, but a small town girl that is running a business out of her home with small kids that is out impacting the world. And you impressed me so much that when the Next Impactor, when I was introduced to the Next Impactor, I actually got a hold of you and
Yes.
said, you know what, you need to really consider this, because I was so impressed with the fact that here you were there to be a speaker, and then when I started putting the connection together that you weren't necessarily the event host, you really were there and you stepped up to the plate. And that's what an impactor does. And so when I checked in with you and said, what do you think? What was your initial thought?
As far as just like,
would you be interested in throwing your hat in the ring to become the world's first Next Impactor?
you know, honestly, so you had brought it to my attention and somebody else did as well who wasn't involved in it. And I thought, oh, that's cute, but I'm not there yet. I'm not of that caliber yet. Like, that's for people who are really making a difference. And it was one of those things where, you know, we all beat up on ourselves. We're all ourselves worst critic and everything like that. And I just felt like I wasn't doing enough in order to even be considered. But then it was the night before. It was the very night before at like 11 o'clock, and the videos were due at like 11:59. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know, I'm in my pajamas. My kids are asleep. I don't have my studio, like my lighting. I don't have anything up and going. But what the heck? Like, I'll put in a video. The worst thing they can do is say, oh, she's cute, but no thank you, you know? And lo and behold, I was one of the top 50, and I was completely blown away when it was so funny, because I actually, when they were calling the top 50, I had tuned in probably 10 minutes late. And so they'd actually already called my name, but I waited out the whole rest of it until I actually realized and went to the replay, and I zoomed in to look at all the different people, and I saw my name at the top, and I was like, oh my gosh, they called my name already? I'm in the top 50. I was so excited. So that was really awesome. And I just felt, you know, it was one of those kind of realizations where before the world or anybody is going to believe in us, we have to believe in us first. We have to, whether it's our product, whether it's our service, whether it's our coaching, whatever it is, if we don't truly believe it, then nobody's going to believe it. And so it was a really good lesson for me that I need to love myself more. I need to be my own best cheerleader and tell myself and kind of pump myself up, because if I'm just waiting around for somebody to give me validation, it's not going to work. And I need to validate, I need to validate myself, and I need to believe in myself. So it was just a really great lesson.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because again, we're doing a full circle here, because you're being very transparent. You're being very real and it's an entrepreneur's journey. And that is part of what you're in the end, where all of this is going, in that, okay, so then you are, you're part of the Next Impactor, you're part of the team, you're a mom of small kids, you have a business you're running. That's a lot of time in a lot of different places. And then you decide to start a podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
I was, what am I doing? But it was honestly, it was like a last effort. And like literally, this is how it went. One day I said, okay, this is frustrating. I'm not getting the traction that I want. Oh, thank you, Helene. Thank you so much. I was like, I'm not getting the traction that I want. I'm going to start a podcast. And then literally I was like, I'm going to call it Operation Bold. Okay. So I literally went and I logged into a hosting platform. Yep. I logged into the hosting platform. I created my domain. I started reaching out to people that same afternoon. And within 2 hours, I had 5 people who had agreed to be on my podcast, very influential people. And it all happened in the span of like 3 hours. And I remember I walked out of my office and I went into to my husband had just made dinner, and I went out and I said, hey, so I'm going to start a podcast. It's called Operation Bold. I'm launching on April 8th. And I already have 5 people who've said yes. And he's like, awesome. That's great. Good for you. And literally that's how it went. So it was like completely spur of the moment and unstrategized.
Well, some of us can go there with, kind of like, okay, but you follow inspiration. And we were talking about that, that there is an element of inspiration in the things that that some of the choices that you make, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's more taking action and being okay that it's not going to be perfect, and letting idea that, oh, it can be perfect and all of this, and like letting that go and just saying, you know what? I'm putting myself out there. I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't really have a strategy because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to strategize because I don't know. And just going out there, and it was literally the best business decision that I ever did. And so that's why I tell people, like, don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. Just get out there. Just do it.
Uh-huh. So your response, you didn't overthink it. You just did it. And then the response was surprising, right?
Very. Yeah, because I had been building up my quote unquote audience for, a couple years being an entrepreneur. But it was all about like branding and marketing and inspiration and motivation. So I didn't really have like one specific thing that people like knew me like for. And so I had decided that I was going to launch, and I put a few things out on Facebook letting people know. And I got like a couple people saying like, ooh, cool, and stuff like that. And I launched. And again, since I didn't have a strategy, like looking back now, I'm kind of like, oh my goodness, like, wow, I can't believe I did it that way. But, I did it. But so after I launched, I think my first couple episodes got like 30 downloads right away. And I was like, oh my goodness, like 30 whole people like downloaded. And I was like super astounded. Thanks, Christopher. I appreciate you. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And then I was at this co-working because we were going to be moving. So our apartment lease had ended. So we had moved in with my in-laws for 6 weeks, and they didn't have internet. So I had to drive 25 minutes every day to go to a co-working facility so that I could have internet. So I was there, and I had happened to meet somebody who else worked there. And she was like, so what do you do? And I kind of told her that I did branding and that I just launched a podcast. And she listened to it, and she sent me a message, and I'll never forget this. She sent me a message a few days later saying, so I tuned into your podcast, and you're actually pretty good. And I'm kind of surprised because you're actually pretty good. And more professional than I thought. And I was like, well, thank you, I guess. And it actually happened that she, a couple of days later, she came up to me and she's like, I think I need a podcast in my brand too. So can you help me? And I was like, of course I can. Absolutely. Yes. I know everything about podcasting. I had really like dove in, and I had like consumed as much free information as I could. But it was one of those things where I hadn't actually done it before, but I said, and I told her that, but I was like, yes, I can absolutely do this. And it was amazing. And she's become a good friend of mine. And I love, like, since she's launched her own podcast, she's gotten booked on stages. She's communicated with her audience a whole lot better. She's hosting her own mastermind now because she has a better audience through podcasting. So it does have so much impact. But yeah, I was really surprised when people started downloading and listening. And I think the biggest thing is when people would reach out to me on Messenger or on Instagram and say, hey, I listened to your podcast about you being transparent about like being suicidal and stuff like that. And that completely changed my life. And I was very depressed and thinking about suicide, but I've changed that around now due to what you said on your show. And to me, that was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing because I am now truly impacting people. And so just, it was amazing.
And here you're in the middle still, or you had that impactor mindset because you are in the First Next Impactor Challenge. So you're really, and that's one of the things that I have to say that I've appreciated about it, is that it really has made us think, who are we? What is our message? Is it clear and defined? Who is that target audience and that community that you may want to make a difference in? And how will you actually make a difference?
Absolutely.
And so when you have that right here in the front of your brain and you're thinking about it, do you think that that helped you in any way?
It did. I really think having the focus, and actually this is where I'm taking the focus of my business right now, is having the focus of impacting first and income will follow. Because so many entrepreneurs, they go out there and they try to make money. And we all do. You know, that's kind of like the whole point of being an entrepreneur, right? But we go out it, and sometimes when you don't have the right mindset, you sound salesy, you sound needy, you sound desperate, like, oh, come on, you have to buy my stuff because it's the best. But you know in your heart of hearts that it pretty much sucks. And so when people lead with impact, when they lead with, I'm putting out this content because I truly want to make someone's day better, or I truly want to help them in their journey of chemotherapy, or I truly want to help them to, you know, take care of their children better, whatever that is. When you actually have that type of mindset, you will be amazed at when people start reaching out to you saying, hey, can I work with you? And all of a sudden you're like, well, yes, of course you can. Sure. You know, like, let me find a link or something, you know? That's where I'm taking the focus. And I feel like with the Next Impactor, how they led with, how are you impacting? It wasn't just like, oh, cool, you have a business, or oh, cool, you do this nonprofit. It was, well, that's sweet, but how is that actually making a difference? And one thing that I love about my coach, Jason Cisneros, he would say, when we were talking about our goals for the week, and people would say, oh, I'm going to try to do this. And he's like, well, what can you do that's measurable? How are you measuring the different things in your business? And so for me, that really spoke to me. And when I had him on my podcast a couple days ago, I told him that, and I said, that really helped me, because I started focusing on the things that that I had control over and that I could actually measure. Because if you don't, then you're just kind of like throwing darts at midair, or you're, like he said, you're going for a drive and you're trying to go someplace, but you keep taking every turn that looks cool. And so you really have to have goals that you can measure. And just having the competition and having to be a part of that team, with the demands of working with other people, maybe sometimes people that you're just like, I don't understand how they're seeing it this way, or, you know, it just really helped me to be a better leader on my team, in my agency and for my clients and everything like that. And it just helped me to make sure that we had the right focus in our business going forward of creating the impact first, and just kind of like leading with that.
And I think that what I really am hearing from you, and it's making complete sense in what I am seeing over here, and what you're now calling your new podcast, is that impact really has a really big piece. And so there's a domino effect. And it makes sense in that when you're working with coaches and people and mentors and people that are holding you accountable, and what are you doing? Is it actionable? Is it something that you can actually count, and you can get a defined number? You can see the results. It's not just, if you will, oh yeah, I feel it's going well. Right. Oh, well, nice. Now, where's the proof in the pudding? Where are the numbers?
Exactly. Yeah.
You need to be able to track it. You need to be able to see it. So what is the name of your podcast now?
So my podcast right now is Operation Bold, but I'm going to tell you that I'm considering potentially renaming it to Voice of Impact, because that is what my brand is. That is where my podcasting course, my, like where I'm putting because I want to create a movement. I'm going to just say it. I'm going to call it, because I want to create a movement of people who are trying to create an impact, no matter what their niche is, no matter if they're in the health, wealth, relationship, like whatever it is, they're leading with an impact. And especially for podcasters, I kind of created, you see that there, this anthem. And because I truly believe that you have to boldly embrace your mission. And I feel like for me, my mission is to empower other entrepreneurs to step into their greatness and to have a voice and to, to really express their God-given talents and abilities. And so I do believe that it's bold action that's required to suit up every single week and deliver content that has the power to change the lives and businesses of millions of people. Like, it's hard to put yourself out there for ridicule. It's hard to put yourself out there in front of your family and your friends who might go, well, who are you to talk about that? Or who are you to think that you could do this or that? But you have to believe in yourself enough. And so that's what my mission with Voice of Impact is to help other people to lead with impact and to be a voice, whether that's a voice in their blog, whether it's a voice on YouTube or Facebook Live or podcasting. It doesn't matter what medium you're producing and delivering, but it's leading with that impact. And so I'm really excited. I'm doing my beta group right now for my course, and I've gotten such amazing feedback from people, and just knowing that I am creating that impact, it inspired me. I'm starting my mastermind.
I was going to ask you about this, because, and I want to just compliment you on this. And this is why I wanted to bring everybody through kind of the backstory to the front, because your experience in helping other brands and other companies and other entrepreneurs and thought leaders to kind of repackage themselves. And what is it that your brand is saying? Are you saying it in a consistent way? All of these things. Those are all skills that you're now bringing forward, and you can bring it out in something like your podcasting mastermind. And you're doing that in your neck of the woods. You actually said, okay, no time like now, kind of like you did with, okay, I'm starting a podcast. Okay. And I love that.
It's really interesting, because the reason that I got into branding in the first place and helping people to create their identity is because when I was growing up, I went through a lot of emotional abuse, and I went through a lot of being told that I'm nothing special. I'm nobody special. I'm not going to amount to, being that successful of a person, because I'm pretty much a nobody. I'm just Ruth, And so I grew up hearing all those negative things and just being told that, like, I'm nothing special. And as a child, sometimes things stay with you. And I went through that, and I went through other traumas as a child, which led to depression, which led to attempted suicide when I was 18. I went through this whole big ordeal of feeling like I am nobody. I'm nothing special. And I remember the night that I attempted suicide, I felt like the world would just be better if I wasn't here, because I'm nobody. I'm nothing special. And so after I was starting my journey in entrepreneurship and trying to figure out how I could impact people, I really had to come to realize that I can either play the victim and say, oh, people were just so mean to me and all of this, or I can say, you know what, that happened in the past, but I'm deciding from now on that this is the person that I want to be, and that I'm in control of my life, and that I can be whoever I want to be. And so I wanted to empower other people, no matter if they've gone through trauma or maybe they just don't feel confident. And it doesn't really matter why they feel the way they do. I wanted to empower them to step into their greatness. And that's how we did it through branding. And now that's how we're doing it through the podcasting and communicating to your audience, because, I have been in the position of feeling so low, thinking that the world would just be better if I'm not here. And I equate that to when you're a new entrepreneur, or even if you're a struggling entrepreneur, or you've been successful, but you're having one of those, those little slumps, you feel so insignificant. and you feel like, well, if I just died, nobody would care if my business survived or if it failed. And I want to empower people to kind of like, excuse my French, but cut the crap. Like just embrace, like, you know what? You're going to have the days, you're going to have that. You're going to have like the struggles and the slumps and everything like that. But you choose whether you play victim or you choose whether you take it and say, you know what? I'm not stupid. I just have a lot to learn. I didn't fail. I failed forward, or I learned a good lesson. And so I just want to empower people to do that because I can tell people, look, I've been where you've been and this is what I've done and I can help you to do that. It's not like I'm trying to help people where I've never suffered. You know, it's not like I'm trying to, you know, help people to, you know, like create a software that makes, you know, tens of millions of dollars and I haven't done it yet. Like I'm trying to help people and empower people in a way that I had to step in and do that for myself. And I want to be that person for them that I wish I would have had. And so it's all about making that impact for them and doing it, because I get like, if you can't tell, I get like so fired up about.
Oh yeah, no, I think I got a hint of that. Well,
Good.
I have to say, you said, I haven't created that yet. And that right there was like, yes, girl, yes. Because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this now. But you never know. Don't give up on Ruth, because if I want to create software that's going to do something pretty darn crazy and wonderful, hey, I'll do it. So I haven't done that yet.
Right. But it's all about, you know, and it's just, and I love, and people ask me, you know, they say, how do you do everything with being a mom and a wife and having a business and all of this stuff? And for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way because of how passionate you are in what you're doing. And you know, it's just, to me, it's not work. Like, yeah, there are some days where I'm like, man, I just don't really want to do the work side, the numbers side, or, you know, some of those boring things. But I don't feel like this is work. Coaching isn't work. Developing a course is not work. Getting on strategy calls is not work. It's like what I get fired up to do. Like I will tell my husband, I'm like, I have a podcast interview today, and I get like so excited. This isn't work to me. This isn't work. And so helping with the mastermind, it's about bringing people offline, because online you can kind of get depressed. You can kind of feel like everybody's so much further ahead of you because they're showing you their highlight reel and everything like that. And so I'm trying to, in Orlando, just take people offline. I have this membership and this mastermind where people can be around other people who are going to hold them accountable, but who are going to support them and help them along the way, because we all need those people. And so I just want to be able to do what I can and to take what I've learned and what I've implemented and what's worked, and to give that to other people in a very intimate way of just when we're in person and being able to be there. Because, you know, like when we went out for dinner, it was so nice sitting and talking, and it would have been way different had you and I met over a Zoom call and trying to like build that relationship. And so I'm trying to make sure that that's what we're doing with the Voice of Impact Mastermind, because truly, at the end of my life, I don't want to have regrets of, well, I should have done a mastermind, but I was just too scared because I thought I wasn't ready, or I wasn't smart enough, or all these different things, whether it's a podcast or whatever. I don't want to have that. And I might fall flat on my face. People might not show up. It might be a total disaster, but at least I'm going to try. I'm going to put everything that I have into that when I'm there, and I'm going to do my absolute best. And I'm 1,000% confident that it will impact at least one life. And if it does, I'll be happy.
I am so behind you on this. Yay.
Awesome.
In fact, okay, so before we go, because I know you've got to get going here, is I would love for you to be in the comment area. How can someone get a hold of you? How, if they want to check into what it would be to be able to join you in the mastermind, how do they find that? Yeah, Christopher, I'm with you. Go, Ruth. Woo-hoo. You know, it's like, I even have the right color. Let's do it. Okay. Go, Ruth. Go, Ruth. Go, Ruth. You know, it's like, Team Ruth. Team Ruth. It's just awesome. You know, good job. Yeah, and so as we start to close up our day today, time today, is there any kind of pearls, words of wisdom, something that you want, a nugget that you want to share that people will be able to say, wow, I needed to hear that?
Yeah, I think it would be that you have within you right now all the power, all the knowledge, you have everything that you need within you right now. You just need to believe in yourself, and you just need to take that first step, because the first one is the hardest. And no matter if you're already in business, or maybe you're in a health journey, or wherever this finds you and you listen to this, you have every power within you right now, this very second, to, once this video is done, to take it and start implementing. Whether you need to be healthier, maybe it's going on a run. That's something that I'm working on right now, is just getting my health in check, because I know that I can't be the best leader and mom and wife and business owner and all of that if I'm not on my A game in my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And so I've been really working on that. But if whatever you're working towards, you have everything in you right now. The only thing that's holding you back is you, which is great, because that means that you can change it. You don't have to wait on somebody else. You don't have to wait on a green light or anything. Like, you can decide, my business means enough to me, or my relationship with my spouse or my children means enough to me, or my, health, or whatever it happens to be, it means enough to me that I'm going to do the hard things, that I'm going to say the hard things, that I'm going to push myself, and I'm going to work on and so that I can make this. So, like, you have everything that you need right now, this very second. You just need to take action.
I love it. There you go. You have everything you need right now. So take some action. I want to say thank you. And I'm so glad that this worked out. And, things work out to be perfect because the timing is perfect. I don't know if because we actually had something scheduled and then it didn't work. It didn't work out. And you didn't have all of this going on then. And now we're able to talk about that. You have this mastermind coming up on August the 20th, and it's in Orlando. So if you want to put the information in, I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to want to know more about it. I just want to say, as we close day number 297 of 365 Days of Awesome, celebrate success through service. Ruth O'Neill, you are certainly a service hero. You are inspiring in that you are, I'm fond of it, because I was a young mom at one time that had businesses at home that I ran when I had diapers still going on, or, and I know what that's like. And you're doing it. And not only are you doing it, you're doing it in a leadership type of a way. You are out there being inspirational. You are taking the bull by a horn, and now you are helping others to do the same thing. And the fact that you are willing to be so open and honest about your own story and your own struggles, and how those skeletons in that closet or the monster under the bed can sometimes stop people from fulfilling that dream, and you're not letting it happen. You're not saying, I'm not going to be the victim. This is the way it was, but that's not the way it has to continue. And you are being an inspiration for those people that need to hear it, and it very well may be that there is someone that needed to hear that today. And so I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you just inviting me on to speak tonight. It has been just amazing getting to catch up with you, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. You make it a wonderful day, and then everybody, make sure to tune in tomorrow morning at 7:45 Pacific time, 10:45 Eastern, for day number 16 of the public service announcements regarding the Fusion Project. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.